we're living in a very sick and abusive culture, which is why it is so vital right now for us to understand how to find those aspects of ourselves, to be
Yeah.
able to go into our personality, to find the aspects that we deemed not good enough, which is this universal story that we all share, that
Mm.
becomes the off ramp that takes us back to the comfort zone of the home that is known, even if it's not necessarily nice. And it keeps us off of the path of our purpose and our calling. And each of us are here for a reason. Each of us, those little star beings embodied in a physical vessel, each of us came here with far more gifts than we could even imagine until we finally unleash ourselves, which is what happens when you do things like this. So if you've tuned in and you're still here, congratulations. Val is the only one that we can see right now in this video view. But there will be many people who tune back into the replay because ultimately it's a difficult time to get people into something at 4 o'clock in the afternoon or even earlier Pacific time. It's a hard time to be able to get everybody that needs to be here on live. But the thing is it is timeless. And if you're still watching this, if you have went through everything that has already been covered and you're still taking it in, congratulations. I commend you. And I'm sure Tim has words too.
Yeah, on that, it's like to understand if you are still listening, if you're still paying attention to what we're actually trying to communicate to you, it's like there's a reason why you're still listening. And, you know, a lot of times we are looking for a little bit of a reassurance that we're not alone in all of this stuff. One of the big things I want people to understand is the crisis, the trauma, the abuse, whatever it is that you have gone through that potentially was locked away, the soul of which you have has the strength to actually go through it. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here right now. That is simple. If you did not have the strength to go through it, you wouldn't be here. So therefore, you do have the strength to keep going through. You're not alone in what you're doing. You're not alone in this work. There are many of us that have gone through our own personal dark nights of the soul. And as a shadow Sherpa, I know what it's like to go through the dark night of the soul, the pitfalls of belief, that the way our human psyche is actually formed genetically through RNA, DNA, and what we can do to actually shift our own internal belief systems. And that is where we do shift it, the generations previous and the generations forward. Because now we've been able to come forward and go, oh, this is how you get through that. That was actually, it wasn't that hard. And a lot of the shadow work that people talk about with Jungian traditional psychology with shadow work or inner child therapy, they think it's like they got to relive it. And it's not about reliving it, it's about reviewing it. And when we review it, we find something completely different. The story goes, actually, I don't know why I thought it that way. And part of what's really important, it's not important about the details of your story. People get confused and they get all in the quagmire of he said, she said, when I was a child, that never happened. That's not how it was. That is completely irrelevant, because when you looked under your bed and you saw dragons and ghosts and that was real to you in that moment. And instead of looking for that validation externally, now is the key thing. The most important thing about integrating that little part of you is to go, that's okay, I understand. So you have the strength, you have the power within you to go through all of this, because otherwise you wouldn't be watching this, you wouldn't be listening to this. And there are those of us around that have, like I said, gone through the dark nights of our soul. The process that has taken me through all of this was understanding there are not too many things that can actually get you there. Like, there's so many people that I've talked to that said, I can't remember my childhood. I don't remember anything that happened of it. And then all of a sudden they get into their emotions. And I do an exercise specifically for anger expression called the shadow box. And that's where people can step in to this box, literally a cardboard box. Why a cardboard box? Because you can find them anywhere in the world and they're absolutely free. So there's no reason why anyone can't do this. And the reason why I began with this expression process, I said, if you have an indoor cat, but you don't have a kitty litter box, where does it take a crap? Anywhere it wants to. And I said, and if you don't have a specific place for that negative chattering voice to come out, where does it come out in your life? Anywhere it wants to. So part of it was for me to step into this. And as soon as I started doing this, I realized I wasn't upset. I was in the middle. It started off with me being in the middle of this massive fight with this ex-girlfriend of mine, and beautiful soul, and in the middle of this fight, and I'm yelling and I'm screaming at her, and she goes, "Why?" She goes, "That's not nice of you." And I'm like, "I love you very much, but I got to keep yelling. Just let me go. I know I'm not mad at you, but I got to find out why I'm mad." And she went, "Okay." Because in that one brief second, I was so angry that there was this, and the way that our brain neurologically works is there's only one or the other. It's a switch that goes on with the default mode network or the task orientated network. It's constantly flickering. But I had just a glimpse, but I'm like, what the hell's the matter with you? You can't be this angry at her. Because it's like somebody did something. I'm like, but I knew I was really, really angry. Right. And I had to find out what that was. And so that's where I developed the shadow box exercise, where people can actually step into that and let it out. And the other person just says, "What? Thank you." And now we're creating this course around that specifically for children, that they have this protective castle. They can actually build a cardboard box and turn it into a castle and a safe thing. This is their safe zone that they can say whatever it is they want. And I said, the reason why is because as a child, one of the biggest things that we never did was we weren't allowed to have a voice, and two, we weren't heard. So when we provide children that now, that they have a voice, they can say whatever they want. They can dump their garbage into this box. And then when they step out, when they're done, and all we're doing as parents or partners just is referring and saying, "Thank you, I hear you." But that's it. They can own it. And they go, and this is what happened to me is I went back and I tracked back. And that was part of that correction process. Was I was so upset. I was connecting with my emotions at such an intense level that it allowed me to join that emotional bridge to that same degree of upset as a child that I was, so that I could go all the way back past this girlfriend, past this girl. Yeah. And I remember when, oh my God, I remember when I was, 14, and I remember when I was 10, I remember when I was 8, and I remember when I was 6, and I remember when, I remember Rhea. And I was like, what was that? And I was like, she called me her little boyfriend. I called her my girlfriend. I was, oh my God, Laura, I was like head over heels in love with this person. And we had such a connection, and she held me and she snuggled me and she cuddled with me and she kissed me. And it was just the most beautiful moment in that time. I knew I was lovable. And I remember counting pennies to buy her flowers. But I was like, 10, 10, 10. I could only count up to 10. Okay. So, but I remember not having enough money to buy her flowers. But then he showed up. He showed up in a baby blue Ford Thunderbird with a big bouquet of flowers, gave it to her, and she left me for him because I wasn't good enough. I forgot to mention I was 4 and Rhea was 20, right? I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot that part. But as a 4-year-old, that 20-year-old is irrelevant. The age is irrelevant. And if I, you know, if you talk to someone, I'm like, oh my God, are you so stupid? God, man, she was like a babysitter or something. Get over it. You know, but then I realized every girlfriend I had left me for a guy with more money and a nicer car. Okay. Before the car process, it was, I had a 1-speed and she left me for a guy with a 5-speed. And then when I got a 3-speed, she left me for a guy with a 10-speed. And then when I had a 10-speed, she left me for a guy that had a motorbike. And this just kept going on and on and on. So the way the universe, in all of its loving crap, is it gave me lesson after lesson after lesson. And Course in Miracles refers to this as, it gives you a chance to choose again. And it wasn't till here I am in you know, as a grown-ass adult, knows better, but I'm screaming and yelling. But then I realized what she was doing was going off with this guy, but what it meant to me, they were just friends. It's irrelevant to the 4-year-old. And that part of reintegration, and then I could communicate what was going on, was little Timmy was feeling that, you know, if she left, it meant that I was unlovable. And that, before my whole process developed, she said, oh, honey, I do love you. You know, I'm not going anywhere. So it evolved in the past 25 years from me looking for reassurances that she's still going to love me, right? Then it went into more of the inner child reintegration process, where me connecting with that my own 4-year-old, and me turning around and acknowledging that I am lovable just the way I am. And then I can go and dude, fist bump, man. Like, I got your back. I'm not going anywhere. You know, you are lovable, regardless of whether or not she went off with him in that car. You know, I got your back. I ain't going anywhere. And then after that, people say, well, okay, that's nice. What happens if your girlfriend packs up and leaves you for a guy with more money and a nicer car? And the joke was, have more money than God, so that there would be no way that she could ever leave me for a guy with more money because I got the most money. And then that's the ego that says, I will try to prove it. Look at what I can do. And then the other part that goes, even if she does leave me for a guy with more money and a nicer car, we're still good. We're still lovable, period. And yes, we will then respond with our emotions. I'm not going to shut down any emotion that comes up, regardless of what it is. Why? Because I've already checked off permission in the box. It's there. He has permission, I have permission, and we could emote in whatever it is that we need to. And then you do it 100%. Don't only do it 50%, because then you're just discounting little you. right? Connect 100% with all of those emotions and just really let it go. And typically, traditionally, if you actually did that and emoted and everything else, there was no way of changing the belief underneath it. People would just sit there and they would spin and spin and spin in this rumination over and over and over again of how unlovable I am, how unlovable I am, how unlovable. But now, I mean, we're only talking 15 years. Like, you look at how much we have evolved as a society, okay, technologically evolved as a society in 15 years has been huge. And our level of understanding of neuroscience and early childhood trauma and all of this, that it doesn't matter what you went through. The story is irrelevant. And in one of my trainings, the beautiful experience, there were two women in the process that were going through what happened as a child. And one of them was raped satanically from the time she was 3 till 12. Repeatedly, her parents were part of this whole cult. They were all part of it. And she said, if my mom loved me, why would she do that to me? And, you know, which is understandable, correct? Like, why would your mom do that if she loved you? The other woman said, I had a most supportive, loving relationship with my parents. They were nurturing, the balanced, everything was, there was nothing. And then all of a sudden, emotionally, she connected. And she went, I remember when I was a kid, my parents went away for the weekend, left me with grandma. I came down in the morning for breakfast and grandma had made me oatmeal. And I said, no, well, where's my cereal? Said, well, no, honey, you're going to eat this. The typical, no, you're going to eat what's on your plate, you know, and you're not getting down till you're done. And she's going through this. And she said, if my mom loved me, why would she do that to me? And that's the big thing to remember. Our emotions as a child are on, off, 100%. There are no dials or degrees of upset. It is an upset, period. And when we discount that voice of our pain, our core wound, we're no different than anyone else and just telling little you to go shut up and sit down in the corner. You know, so we must, part of the integration is, so that's okay, I understand, I'm not going anywhere, I got your back. And we all have gone through our own traumas, regardless of what it is. We've all had adverse childhood experiences, whether or not you were raped satanically or whether your parents left it with a grandmother and she didn't have your cereal. We've all gone through what that kid sees as trauma. And we all have to accept that and honor that part, not intellectually go, yeah, well, that was stupid. No, but honor the emotion side. And that's part of the reintegration of the mind, which allows us to have more fluidity between these states. And we no longer get into that fight, flight, or freeze response or fawn. We get into tend and befriend. And then all of our natural, through our vagus nerve, through our neuroscience is now shown that our reactivity isn't there. Our life is not in danger. And we go, oh, you're still here? Yeah. But I was just upset. Yeah, it's okay. I'm still here. You didn't like lock me away in that room? No, it's okay. I got your back. And then the whole homeostasis, and what our typical homeostasis has been, changes and alters. And truly, again, we're back at that forward generations and backward generations, all through our own DNA and our own way of what we're passing our lineage down, along with helping others that are watching this live right now or in the watching the recording. They're going, oh, I actually never thought about that. I have done so many things to calm little me down. Well, yeah, no, dude, I was so upset the other night. I just got drunk. Oh, dude, I was so upset last night. All I did, I smoked a couple joints. I was fine, you know? And then it's like, no, you gotta just accept where you are and honor all of the emotions, the happiness, the upset, all of it. It's vital to the integration of your core wound, healing your inner trauma. You can use what comes up now as a way of emotionally connecting you to what was going on. And this is not about condoning or accepting behavior that is not acceptable. This isn't about gaslighting and saying, oh, no, it is my fault. I'm sorry. I believed I was unlovable. That's why you should treat me that way. Not in any manner whatsoever. However, you do have to be honest with yourself, take accountability, responsibility, and ownership for your side of what goes on. And that other person has to take their accountability, their responsibility, and take ownership of their behavior, their actions, and their deeds. And in that moment, when you have gone through your integration, connected with little you, and healed this relationship, it's like, I don't need that. Thanks. And that's where those people, the next person that comes in has their baggage and they're walking in and you're going, whoa, dude, sorry, that baggage doesn't fit in my kingdom. And this is a peaceful kingdom. And sorry, we can't accept that here. I wish you all the best finding a kingdom that you could take your garbage baggage with you. But yeah. So.
Absolutely. And fine is a 4-letter word. It's fed up with a couple extra letters, depending on how spicy you feel. Insecure, negative, neurotic, or emotional. When you're fine, it just means you're not and you don't want to talk about it, generally speaking. And so one of the things that I was going to say when I had forgotten, I'm grateful because where you went was perfect, is the fact that all of this work that we have proposed and offered to you today, all of this has been under the guise of inner child therapy. But what we're really doing is chasing emotions. It's just going to the core emotion. So while the languaging is inner child or victim or saboteur or prostitute, those are archetypes. Those are familiar frameworks, patterns that we then fill in with our own energy. What we're chasing are the energies in motion we've taken out of circulation. The emotions that we've tried to depress, repress, compress, tried to pretend don't exist, all of those emotions are the trapped and lost aspects of ourselves. That if we actually realize ourselves include the cells of our own self, then we can understand the F that we then get to fill those cells with is going to either be of faith or fear. One will keep us suppressed, the other will elevate us and uplift us. And ultimately, we can uplift ourselves faster if we actually understand emotions and aren't afraid of them anymore. Which is why in 2 weeks from today, which will be the 19th of November, from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time again, Tim and I will be coming together, and what I'm going to be sharing with you in that session is the emotional high rise of awareness. With this teaching of the victim and the warrior, the companion and the rescuer, the punisher and the servant, as the functional and dysfunctional spectrums of each other. So I'm going to bring all of those together, and Tim will have magic for you as well. So we hope that you got tremendous value from today and that you are able to take away some practical tips. Because as much as verbal masturbation may sometimes be fun for the person doing it, it's not about that. what it's really about is taking all of that verbal jumbo and then taking it for what it means to you. Because as much as what we said and how we said it isn't necessarily jumbo, and I feel like we've done an incredible thing today, and I'm so proud of us, Tim, for being willing to just step up and say, okay, let's, because the world needs it, and no one's going to pay for what they don't know they need until they know that they need it, because they've experienced some kind of benefit from it and then understand the necessity for more. So instead of making this a paid for opportunity where you have to evaluate this over something else, we've given it freely from our hearts for the sake of humanity. Because right now we are in a war, and it's not just on the outside. It's on the inside, and those little aspects of ourselves that we aren't letting out are the helium balloons that pop out from underneath of the water and make a huge splash at the first opportunity if we don't address them. And you may have inner children, which are just emotions that we suppressed from the past. Those little inner children are peeking their head up, making a fuss. And if we don't have a relationship with them, then we also don't have the ability to put ourselves into check faster. Because if you like somebody and something is happening that they ask you to stop, you're more inclined to do it if you like them. Well, the inner child within you is the same. So like what Tim had said about the patterns, we're just pattern people. We don't necessarily look like it unless you take some psychedelic drugs and then you realize that the whole thing is like the back of Tim's background there. It's all just patterns.
One of the things that I just to touch on that real quickly is the founders of New Thought. Most of them had done some form of psychedelic in order to change the way that they were thinking. And Aleister Crowley, one of his things he said was it rolled the stone back so he could see clearly. And that's that part of the brain which is called the thalamic gate. And when I took a look at different kinds of modalities and people that had PTSD and I realized that as soon as they took either this prescription drug or ayahuasca or iboga, what happened was it slowed down the thalamic gate response to that equal of the default mode network equalized with the others. So it balanced out. So you're just going tick, 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 tick. So you don't have, little you doesn't have that emotional reaction because you're actually in a way connecting with it. And I said before, connection though without correction is useless. And that has always been one of the issues with people that have gone down to Peru, done ayahuasca, or they gone to Gabon and they did iboga, or even now locally ayahuasca ceremonies and iboga ceremonies. Without correction and integration, it's useless. Mm-hmm. You know, there's absolutely, they've had an awakening moment in their thought when that stone was temporarily removed, but then all of a sudden that thalamic gate shut back down. And there are processes now that we've developed that they talk about the memory reconsolidation of changing the belief, and the recent neuroscience shows it's going to be done within 5 hours. So this isn't about going back to a therapist week after week after week. Your brain will reset itself. So we have abilities now, and again, I just want to thank everybody for sharing their time and their energy and watching this with us.
That's beautiful. Thank you. And with that, one final nugget that I just want to bring back in as a tool for you to take away is the remembrance of breath as the reset. we can use our breath to reset ourselves so that we can actually support ourselves through those difficult times. And sometimes we can't get through it on our own. And psychedelic drugs are not the answer. Let me tell you, after 8 DMT ceremonies, dimethyltryptamine last year, that we're with a shaman, but I tried to do a spiritual bypass, which meant I got to go back through those lessons backward. And y'all saw how that turned out, which took about a year to get over and recover from, because I demolished life as I knew it, because I stepped way beyond what was normal for many and experienced a lot and unleashed and unveiled a lot without full integration. And there was an African shaman I had read a story on who had came into a mental institution, and all he saw were unintegrated energies, which are what all of these, what we've been talking about today, have been about. So as much as it hasn't been actually discussed, this is about mental health, because the mind is the persona that we wear as camouflage in this world. And it's camouflage because there are so many dark spots and blind spots that we have within the corridors of our own self. So if we are able to actually go through and open those, we'll wear less of that front of needing to feel like we have to hide. Because if we feel safe on the inside, we don't feel so threatened on the outside. And that's what my hope for you is. And the reason that Tim and I decided to bring this to you today. So we hope that you've gotten tremendous value from it. We look forward to coming to you again in 2 weeks and say thank you to everyone who tuned in for a piece, for all of it, or even just got what you needed and got on with what you have next. So
now, for those that have actually stayed to the very end, Gina Lee and myself have produced what we refer to as a neuro nidra. It is a way of working with that inner child through a yoga nidra meditation. And if you email me, because you've actually waited to the end, at tim@thegrumpyguru.com, you will get that for free. There will be no charge at all. Again, we've been through this. We know what it's like. And there are a lot of people that are just about the money, but we're about helping. And so if you've lasted this long, here is something that can provide an unbelievable amount of integration and relaxation, and it's free. Again, email me, tim@thegrumpyguru.com.
fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Tim and Valerie and everyone else who tuned in over on Facebook. I will get this up onto YouTube very soon, and I am not sure how to see about any questions and where they all are. So we'll look forward to seeing any comments in the YouTube video when I get it posted after editing, and say thank you very much for being you, for being willing to show up, and for all of your support. Toodaloo.